Hello, you're watching Health Day Now. On today's episode, we'll be joined by nutrition expert Dr. Thunder Jalili to discuss why Americans spend more than $30 billion a year on dietary supplements, despite decades of research disputing their ability to improve health outcomes. We'll also go over the effects of vitamin D on bone strength and disease prevention, and explore some of the benefits of zinc supplements.
Vitamin D supplements may offer some protection against autoimmune diseases, according to a new study. The study included nearly 26,000 older adults who were randomly assigned to take vitamin D with or without an omega-3 fatty acid supplement, omega-3 fatty acids alone, or a placebo. Participants were then asked to report any new diagnosis, including rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune thyroid disease, psoriasis, and inflammatory bowel disease. After 5 years of monitoring, researchers found that vitamin D supplementation reduced the rate of autoimmune disease by 22%. Omega-3 fatty acids alone did not significantly lower the incidence of autoimmune disease. The senior author says, "It is exciting to have these new and positive results for non-toxic vitamins and supplements preventing potentially highly morbid diseases." The researchers say future trials should test the effectiveness of vitamin D interventions in younger people and those at high risk for autoimmune disease.
Hello and welcome to Health Day Now. I'm Mabel Jung. The supplement industry is often described as the Wild West, and for good reason. The body of research on supplements is vast and spans decades, but study after study has told us the same thing, that you won't live longer or ward off diseases with a daily multivitamin. For the majority of vitamins and supplements, the research is relatively conclusive. Most people will get little to no health benefits from taking them. Still, Americans collectively fork out more than $30 billion each year on these pills. A survey of over 2,000 U.S. adults conducted by the Harris Poll in partnership with Health Day found that nearly 3 in 4 adults currently take some kind of dietary supplement, and 35% currently take a multivitamin. While the FDA does not have the authority to approve supplements, nearly half of U.S. adults mistakenly believe that most dietary supplements available for purchase have been declared safe and effective by the FDA. The supplement industry continues to spend billions of advertising dollars to convince consumers that one vitamin will get rid of brain fog or help boost your immune system. Considering the mixed messages, it's not surprising that 42% of Americans admit they have no idea where to go or what sources to rely on to get the most accurate information about which supplements are safe and effective. That's why we have Dr. Thunder Jalili here, a professor of nutrition and integrative physiology at the University of Utah. Dr. Jalili, great to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I just wanted to ask you and really follow up on some of the studies that we have seen that suggest that multivitamins and most dietary supplements overall won't make you live longer, slow cognitive decline, or lower your chances of disease. So why, according to the Harris Poll and Health Day survey, do nearly 3 in 4 adults currently take some kind of supplement and 35% currently take a multivitamin?
There's a lot of effective marketing around supplements, whether it's print or web media or whatever. There's just a good marketing campaign, and people want to believe and want to find a product that's helpful. So the marketing, is there for a receptive audience. For example, like there may be a supplement that would say, like they can't make an outright claim, but they could say it supports cardiovascular health. That's fairly vague. And if you're for something to, help you get better blood pressure or to benefit some aspect of your cardiovascular system, or maybe you're at risk for heart disease, maybe that sort of vague language speaks to you. There's no FDA requirement to actually study if any of these are efficacious, right? And so because of that, there's a really mixed bag about what may actually be possibly working and what may not. A fourth factor, there is like some data surrounding a number of supplements. I don't know if I can put a percentage on it, but let's say half the supplements out there have some data saying they do something. But the problem is the vast majority of this data is in a cell culture model or an animal model. They're going to act differently than a complex human. So that muddies the waters as to, what may work and what may not work. The placebo effect of taking supplements is very real, and it can't be ignored, because if somebody wants to believe that the product will be helpful and they're very receptive mentally to it, they could actually have quite a strong placebo effect. And so they perceive, I've been feeling great since I've been taking this, and then they continue with that behavior. It's really hard to tease that out.
Okay. A lot of people think the FDA has a hand in this, that they actually regulate some of these supplements, but they don't, right? So how unregulated is the market, do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty unregulated, I would say. The FDA has a tough job because there's so many different products out there. They don't necessarily have, the legal mandate or the staff or the resources to really keep tabs on absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. And they don't really have a great enforcement mechanism either. That's another issue. I mean, they may find ingredients or supplements that are not safe, and they can send letters and they can contact the manufacturers to say, we want you to pull these ingredients, or we want you to recall these supplements. But at the end of the day, a lot of these companies don't do that.
Okay. Yeah. The FDA does send out letters, as you mentioned. They did warn the public about some 29% of supplements, but those products are still available for purchase.
Right. Yeah. And what you're touching on is there's a number of different ingredients out there that are used in like diet aid supplements and kind of energy boosting. I'm using air quotes. And these are typically some sort of stimulant. So the FDA has tried to pull some of these ingredients from the market and some of these supplements, but it's been, I would say largely unsuccessful.
Has there been some type of COVID effect, people wanting to boost their immunity to viruses by popping a pill?
In what I've seen, yes, there has been, but I don't have a specific study or data to back up just what I've anecdotally seen. Mm-hmm. But from what I've noticed, there's been more people interested in taking zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D, just to name a few. And some of this is also fueled by the biomedical world as well, because there are ongoing studies looking at the efficacy of vitamin D, for example, to prevent or treat COVID. The best data that we have says that vitamin C really doesn't work, and zinc doesn't really work in terms of preventing COVID. With vitamin D, yes, there may be actually some effect there, that vitamin D could be helpful in preventing and also better outcomes after someone has contracted COVID. But the caveat I'll put in there is it seems to be with people who are compromised in their vitamin D status.
Is it better overall to just get your nutrients from the food you eat? And if you can't eat well, can taking the vitamins be good?
Yeah. So in general, absolutely, it's better to get your nutrients from your food. These nutrients, the vitamins and minerals, they are absorbed better when they're taken in with a food matrix. And they also may act better together in like a complex as opposed to in isolation. So, and I'll give you just one example of that. So turmeric is a popular phytonutrient. Most people have heard of it. A lot of people take a turmeric supplement or some sort of curcuminoid supplement. There's data that shows it's anti-inflammatory. So that's a good thing, because we know that inflammation is important in a lot of diseases. But if you take turmeric as an individual supplement, it's very unabsorbable. So we may take 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams of turmeric and we'll absorb virtually none of it. But when we take that turmeric root and we use it in Indian curry, where it's, cooked and simmered and it has a chance to become more bioavailable, and then we eat that curry and there's other things in that curry, other nutrients, vitamin A and turmeric and many things together, that actually is a better combination.
I just want to reference our poll again. The Harris poll and Health Day survey found that 11% of Americans are currently taking vitamin E and 3% are taking beta carotene.
Yeah.
Now, we've actually known for quite some time that these two supplements can be harmful. And finally, the U.S. Protective Task Force officially recommended that people should stop, like now. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. There's been, over the last 20, 25 years or so, there's been a number of large scale multivitamin trials. And they've been done with the idea that if we supplement, say, vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin C, and alone or in combinations, we can reduce the risk of heart disease, reduce the risk of mortality, reduce the risk of certain cancers. So that was the hypothesis. And these studies that have, at this point, probably enrolled millions of people, they've basically found it doesn't really work. But not only that, in some populations, it actually increases the risk for harm and increases mortality. And vitamin A and vitamin E specifically have been identified in several studies as causing an increased risk of disease or an increased mortality when supplemented. So that's why, we have this recommendation now that people shouldn't supplement vitamin A or vitamin E.
Okay. You actually advise against taking multivitamins. Why?
Mostly because I don't think they're purpose. In some cases, it could be bad, and again, I'm referencing some of those studies we just talked about. But in vast majority of cases, they really just don't do any good. If you have the close to the recommended amount of these nutrients from what you eat, there's no extra benefit from taking it supplementally.
But you yourself take vitamin D and fish oil.
I do.
Why?
I do. So the vitamin D I take because vitamin D deficiency is more common than you think, especially, once you get a little older, like over the age of 40 or so. So that's a reason to consider taking it. Vitamin D has a lot of important benefits in terms of your immune system. One of the consequences that I've seen with people who are deficient in vitamin D, not only are they, their immune system may be compromised, but they're also very run down. So it actually has a purpose. And I've tested my own vitamin D levels in the blood, so I know where they are, and I know that the supplement I take keeps it in the normal range, and if I don't take it, it gets a little low. So, so it's really a question of I take it because I know there's a risk of being low. I know there's a benefit to having it. As far as vitamins go, that's pretty much the only one. The only other ones that would be beneficial is if you're dealing with a specific case of deficiency. So, for example, iron deficiency is somewhat common in the United States. Many young women would have an iron deficiency. So, yeah, there's an obvious place that you would want to recommend an iron supplement.
Well, one sector of the supplements market that has had profound growth is the performance enhancing workout supplements.
Yes.
Are the benefits measurable for those products, and who are they appropriate for?
In most cases, the benefits are not really there. There's one exception, and that is creatine. So for creatine, there's a pretty decent body of evidence that shows it's effective for building muscle size and strength. So if you're trying to, you're an athlete, you're trying to become stronger, that's, a person that could benefit from creatine. Now, besides creatine, there's many other products out there. Most of them don't really have, I mean, without going into like all the things that are out there, most of them don't really have a specific benefit that's been noted. And as a matter of fact, some of them may actually have some risk.
Okay.
So I tend to be very cautious on those workout supplements, except for creatine.
Now, if people want to get the best information on what added vitamins are needed, is their doctor the best person to turn to?
I'm going to say it depends. So there's no specific nutrition training that's required in medical schools across the board. Many physicians have some sort of basic nutrition training, but not really advanced. So whether your doctor is a good source of nutrition or not really depends on that individual. If that individual is really interested in nutrition and takes the time to self-educate, then yes, they can be a great source of nutrition advice. A dietitian, registered dietitian, is always a good source. And then if you want to research on your own, accredited agencies you can find on a web, like the American Heart Association, the American or the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, those sorts of agencies, the NIH, all good sources of nutrition advice.
Thanks so much to Dr. Thunder Jalili, a professor of nutrition and integrative physiology at the University of Utah. I'm Mabel Jong. You've been watching Health Day Now.
Zinc supplements may help prevent respiratory tract infections, according to a new study. Respiratory tract infections include colds, flu, sinusitis, pneumonia, and COVID-19. Researchers reviewed 28 clinical trials that tested the mineral's ability to stave off symptoms such as coughing, congestion, and sore throat. None of the trials specifically examined zinc's impact on COVID-19. Compared with placebo, the results showed that zinc lozenges or nasal spray prevented 5 respiratory tract infections in 100 people a month. The effects were strongest in reducing the risk of severe symptoms like fever and flu-like illness. Participants who used zinc spray or placed a liquid formulation under their tongue were twice as likely to recover during the first week compared to placebo. There were no serious side effects reported from zinc use, but nausea and mouth or nose irritation were common. The authors say zinc may be a viable natural alternate for management of nonspecific respiratory tract infections, but they caution considerable uncertainty remains regarding the clinical efficacy of different zinc formulations, doses, and administration routes. If you're generally healthy, taking vitamin D supplements won't lower your risk of bone fractures, a new study finds. The study included nearly 26,000 people who were randomly assigned to take either 2,000 international units of vitamin D per day or placebo. Participants filled out annual questionnaires that asked whether they'd suffered any fractures, and after an average of 5 years, researchers found no significant difference between the two groups. Those who took vitamin D supplements reported 769 fractures, while those who took placebo reported 782. The authors of an accompanying editorial say, these findings clearly demonstrate that daily supplementation with 2,000 IU of vitamin D3 does not reduce the risk of total, hip, or non-vertebral fractures. They say, while testing patients with certain conditions may remain useful, there's no justification for measuring vitamin D levels in the general population.
Thanks for watching Health Day Now.